approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, second by Commissioner Kavesi to approve the meeting minutes from October 6th, 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, meeting minutes approved. Chairperson's report. Since our last meeting, haven't really had any state meetings or anything, no notifications or anything, so we'll just move on from there to, unless anybody else has anything. No, okay. Moving on then, consent business, 4.1. Approval, renewal of the purchase contract with the Driftless Region Vector Control LLC for mosquito abatement services. And that's page 63 in our regular packet. Any discussion? I have a couple questions. Could we get we've done this for a number of years, and we've dealt with mosquitoes for a lot of years, but could we get a report as to what, I mean, it does say that they will make, if they find an egregious situation, they'll, and then I guess I want to know what they're doing for our money. I really don't, we hand it out to them, we give them a contract. Yes, the contract has things stipulated, but I would prefer some type of report. It doesn't need to be oral, but I think we should get some kind of written report. And then I did find it a little strange that we go, and this is probably just the contract that it goes into December. Well, there aren't too many mosquitoes in, December. So I'm sure they're concentrating their work in that part of this mosquito season. But there again, I don't know what they're doing, and I would like a report.
Yes, we can provide that for you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I move to approve 4.1. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, second by Commissioner Olson to approve 4.1, which is the contract with the Driftless Region Vector Control. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those nay. Okay, that is approved. General business, anything that should come, public health? Melanie, anything to report? No? Okay, Karen, nothing to report?
No, just we're day COVID. We are in mass vaccination clinics right now. They did a phone clinic, I believe, yesterday over in Houston. A lot of, with 105 signed up, registered, but by the end of the night, they had almost 50 additional walk-ins. So
That was in Lewiston?
yes, in Lewiston. So they're doing a lot of vaccinations and a lot of vaccination clinics throughout the county. So that continues. First initial doses, and then also some boosters. So we did get approval through MDH to do boosters for anybody over the age of 18 now. I'm sure you all have aware of that.
Madam Chair, could you ask Karen to come to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have Commissioner Meyer needs to be at home.
My apologies,
Okay.
Commissioner Meyer. I should know better. Yes, we, as you are all most aware, is that everybody in the state of Minnesota has been approved over the age of 18 to receive a booster shot now. It was only those immunocompromised and then those over the age of 65. That has all gone now to the age of 18 and over can receive boosters at this time. That is some of the newest news. Several counties went and prior to the approval did themselves approve as community health boards to move forward to do that without the state approval. So that is something new that has come out of that. But we were having those discussions early on in our incident committee meetings, but it wasn't necessary as we have now got approval through FDH in the state of Minnesota.
So a question that I've been asked. So you've got Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Now, are they all approved for boosters? And are they readily available, the quantity of vaccine availability?
I believe we are approved for Pfizer and Moderna. All three now, yes. So all three are now approved for.
And we have supply of all three?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, all right. The other question I have is and it was in today's Winona Daily News, and for better lack of terms or whatever, incentives or the bribery to get a vaccination, the money So the money locally that we're offering in form of what, gift cards or something is coming from the state of Minnesota?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and have we got a dollar amount we're allocated or? we're still working
We
on
are
it?
allocated through a contract of $100,000.
Okay,
And we are giving those out currently in $50 gift cards for initial doses.
okay, and gift cards to what,
The individuals.
what businesses are?
They're just $100 or $50 Visa gift cards.
Oh,
can
okay,
use
so
them
they can
wherever.
use it, okay,
Yes.
so they can stimulate our local economy by spending that locally.
Yes.
The other one that was mentioned is the very intriguing, $100,000 scholarship. Now, where can every child register for that? How is that working?
Well, we have received complaints about that because individuals that were vaccinated prior to the incentive program coming out are technically not eligible,
Okay.
which is causing some disdain in our public, which I agree with.
Yeah, I would too.
So we will be addressing that with MDH. Those are coming forward. Those complaints continue to come forward, even locally within our own Health and Human Services staff have rendered their own complaints about that.
So we don't know who's doing the 100,000 or how people would register or what that mechanism is?
It is.
Sure. Okay.
So the $500,000 scholarships are being offered by the Minnesota Department of Health. It's for all Minnesotans 12 to 17 years old who have completed their COVID-19 vaccine series at any point and enter for a chance to win a $100,000 Minnesota College Scholarship. And there is a link on the Minnesota Department of Health website.
And why did they pick 12? Do you know?
12 to 17? I do not know.
That seems rather arbitrary. Okay, but it's on the Minnesota Department of Health website?
Yes.
Okay, because that's, yeah. All right, I'll direct people to that then. Okay. Commissioner Jacob.
So how many months after the initial 2-dose series before they recommend the booster?
6 months.
Okay, so then if boosters are being administered now, how long will those be good for before will it be need for another booster? Or how kind of fair to assume that they're only good for 6 months? Or?
Yeah, we're going to assume that they're good for 6 months. They're not really forecasting at this point what that is looking like. If we're going to have to rebooster. What they're stating long term is that this is going to be their flu shot. We'll just get it yearly once we get the virus under control. At this point, we don't know when that's going to happen. So yes, so it's.
So what constitutes being fully vaccinated at this point?
Having your 14 days after your second dose has been administered.
If it's been more than 6 months, then are you without a booster? Are you still fully vaccinated?
I believe you are. I haven't seen anywhere that they're stating that you aren't. I think we're waiting to hear on. We'll potentially hear more on that coming down the road.
So that might be
probably
changing, you're saying? Or?
Yeah, it may be. Yes. I don't have a definitive answer, is what I'm trying to tell you, but I know it is being talked about.
We don't have any science to back it up yet. Right?
Exactly. And there's always different research going on in other countries. Israel has been a big component for some of the science that we use here in the United States, or the CDC has been using. So we're just it's kind of a wait and see. The virus is going faster than science can keep up with, is what we're finding. So.
And it could also be another variant in 6 months, hopefully not, but
Yeah, it is. It's always a potential.
could change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, if not, that would conclude our general business.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Tedeschi to adjourn. Any discussion? We are adjourned.
For our children's health, for our grandchildren's health, why you think that you need to have that responsibility that you don't think we can do that for ourselves. If I want to wear a mask, I won't wear a mask. If I want to social distance, I will do that. If I don't want to go out shopping, I won't go out shopping. If I don't want to go to a restaurant, I won't. But I would like to have the freedom to choose. I've talked to numerous business people, and they had a real tough time this last year with closures, mandates. Some of them did not reopen. And if for whatever reason, 3 of the commissioners that are in favor of doing this, there will be even more business people that will not survive. I, for the life of me, do not know why the 3 commissioners think that they know better than I do. I know that you can't answer that, but I can take care of myself and my loved ones. I can do what is best for me and my loved ones in any type of emergency. Any type of emergency. We've had floods in this county. We've had fires in this county. You have an emergency director that is very capable of taking care of any type of these emergencies. You have a public health nurse that is extremely capable of taking or telling us what we can do if a need would arise for our health. I don't know why 3 board members think that they know better how to protect the people of this county than those people with expertise in those areas.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the county board?
If Heidi can get the timer going.
Yeah. Heidi, can we get the timer going? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Wayne Dozier, and I live at 1296 Windcrest Drive. I've spoken with some of you, I know some of you folks, and I appreciate the chance to be up here tonight. I would just, I guess I kind of had the same comments as what the previous person did. I do not see a big urgent need to insert the commissioners of the county into my life. I really don't. I think there's plenty of other business that you need to be taken care of. You know, you've got a lot of responsibilities already, and it just isn't necessary. It just does nothing but cause division, angst. We're tearing each other apart. I heard we all said the Pledge of Allegiance. And how does it end? With liberty. This is not liberty and justice for all. You guys telling me what I have to wear and what I can do and where I can go is not justice. And I don't get it. You wouldn't like it if I made some rule that says you've got to wear fluorescent gloves and you've got to have them on your steering wheel up on top of it so the police can see that, so that you're safer. You're safer. You're better on the road. We can monitor you that way. How would that go over? I don't think it would. This is really upsetting. It's this is America. We've seen that countries that have done this before, this other kind of stuff. We don't want to go down this path. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room?
I'm Susan Koo. I'm at 636 Lake Street in Winona. I'm here about the ordinance and the vague language. It's very concerning to me. When trying to question or even have open conversation around COVID-19, I get 2 standard replies. Either you're wrong, look at my credible sources, or MDH says. But now you're also competing with people who have had 2 years worth of real life experiences to match up against the credible sources. The reality is many have had COVID and done well, and they have natural immunity, they feel okay about things, or they know a lot of people who have had COVID and done just fine.
Okay, Google, pause.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm
Sorry.
I don't know where that came from. Go ahead.
We know that hospital staffing shortages are the biggest cause for being at critical capacity. We know that Gunderson is at critical because they fired a lot of their staff who weren't willing to succumb to a vaccine mandate. We know that a lot of psych patients end up boarding, AKA taking up hospital beds at Winona Health, because inpatient psych facilities have a greater demand than supply in our area. And the critical message just doesn't compute when we know for a fact that Winona Health is flying in COVID patients from other areas and then putting them at Winona Health. So therefore, we have the capacity to take on other patients. I have 2 kids out of 4 that are at a mask optional school, and 90% of them don't mask. They have one of, if not the lowest COVID count of 2 positive cases from the start of school to now. And interestingly enough, both positive cases were from children who wear masks. You can't discern data from that other than you've got to stop and take a look at what we're trying to do and what we're saying here. On Saturday, I was at a hockey game where masks were required. 2 security guards were there. One was wearing a mask, one wasn't. Half the people had their masks around their chin. People aren't really wearing masks when they're asked to now anyway. I went to Mayo Civic Center in Rochester 2 weekends ago for a comedian show, and they made you single file through with masks on. And the second you were on the other side of the stanchion, people were taking their masks off, and they weren't social distance. And this was, I know everybody, I've gotten a lot of responses who like to cite Mayo, the Mayo. Well, at the Mayo Civic Center, everybody, once they got past the stanchion, took their masks off. The seats for the show, I had to lean on top of my husband to not be touching the other person beside me because the chairs were so crammed together. And I would say over 75% of people were not masking once they got past the stanchions. So at the end of the day, you will vote and you're going to do what you want to do. But the need for this ordinance is obsolete, and please don't be surprised. People already are not complying. Please don't be surprised when people continue not to comply.
Madam Chair, could you ask the last speaker to restate her name? I couldn't hear it.
It was Susan Koo.
Susan Koo, K-O-O.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Please come to the podium.
My name is Bernadette Rickard, and I live at Gilmore Valley, or 1663 Gilmore Valley Road. I hope you all vote no on any ordinance which would increase the power of the board to mandate for public health issues. I'd like to read a little quote from an article by a psychiatrist, Norman Deutsch. It's entitled Needle Points. Many people say regarding mandates that it's for the greater good. But the question is, how are you measuring the good? Is it the same for all people? It is not trivial to override the core felt sense in a democracy that if anything is one's own, it is one's body. Should it be up to your 89-year-old grandmother, who has little time left, to decide whether to spend the remaining years of her life in total isolation or risk COVID but see her loved ones? And the bigger questions: can you explain how you are helping the group when by overriding individual rights, you degrade the group as a whole by weakening each individual within it? Are you aware that the greatest evils in history have also always been done in the name of that abstraction, the greater good? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the county board? I don't see anybody in the room stepping forward. People out in the internet world, we lost.
I think there's one.
Oh, is there somebody outside? Okay, please come on in. And then we seem to have lost our screen, Heidi. I don't know if there's any people out wishing to address us. We've got a different screen up there. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Fiora Gillum, and I just have two questions.
We need you to state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, Fiora Gillum, 751 East King Street in Renewal. And I'm just wondering why people don't question public health directives and why they don't question Fauci. Public health is more concerned with controlling people, I believe, than good health practices. It's been weaponized to promote fear. There are studies in public realm, in PubMed, that hold at least 47 citations of mask studies that show that they don't work. Stress and fear are constant in our lives. I might take public health directives more seriously if the emphasis was on early treatment, no concern over the amount of chemicals that are in our food, our water, our soil, our air, none of that has changed. So I don't understand why they skip over a step and look behind what the directive is. And Fauci, in his 50 years, in his capacity as a leader in our public health institution, has taken the chronic disease level of children back then was 12%. And now it's about 54%. He has allowed a capture, an agency capture by the pharmaceutical industry, so that there's more concern about making money off of the body than there is about promoting good health. Not to mention the fact that he has money in the COVID patent, and has for years. And people that he worked with are also making money on the vaccination. So do we really need to follow Fauci, the technocrats, the transhumanists, and be captured in such a way that we no longer get to make choices about our bodies? Western medicine is already a radical monopoly. We don't get choices about how we can care for our body and make ourselves healthy. And I believe that it's taking us into a place where there's going to be a digital dictatorship, especially with this whole thing about vaccination cards. Once we have everybody online, you can get tracked that way. There's all sorts of plans that the transhumanists and technocrats have in store for us that are being laid down now and are implemented in communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board?
Commissioner Ward, this is Travis Peterson. I would like to address the board.
Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Travis Peterson. I live at 55 Shady Oak Court. Commissioners Kavesi, Meyer, Olson, Ward, and Jacob, and County Attorney Sonneman, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Forced public masking as a COVID mitigation strategy is the reason I've joined and spoken at the past number of county board meetings, and the topic again I would like to address this evening. However, due to the recent actions by County Attorney Sonneman, the topic is now an open-ended, ambiguous, and gross overreaching public health emergency ordinance. Personally and as a human, my family and I would like to wish County Attorney Sonneman the best in her dealing with her personal health issue, and we pray for her recovery and continued good health. Professionally and politically, I could not be more opposed to anyone in Winona County than County Attorney Sonneman. I cannot stand by and watch County Attorney Sonneman destroy Winona County and our constitutional freedoms. She authored this public health emergency ordinance. County Attorney Sonneman is quoted, "There has to be a genuine reason, a genuine risk to public health." What does genuine mean? Whose definition of genuine risk are we using? She is quoted that, "Theoretically, the board can issue a mask mandate." Quoting County Attorney Sonneman again, on whether the county could limit business hours or capacity? And her answer? Theoretically, yes. To top it all off, when asked about a Winona County vaccine mandate, County Attorney Sonneman said, "I'll probably get ream for this, but theoretically they could, maybe." Who is going to ream you, County Attorney Sonneman? Can they issue a vaccine mandate or not? I believe deep down, all the COVID tyrants on this board know that this is wrong. This must be stopped. There are no theoreticals anymore. We're living in times where President Trump issued 15 days to slow the spread, where our great country, America, shut down. Governor Walz stood by and watched Minneapolis burn to the ground and did nothing. Now President Biden has issued an unconstitutional vaccine mandate, essentially saying no American has bodily autonomy on almost the entire country. Meanwhile, the vaccine makers have no liability for any of the adverse events the vaccines may cause. My opinion is that all political officials should be offered no gray area. These times call for specifics and strong leaders. Strong leaders oppose this public health emergency ordinance. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Is there anyone else wishing to address the county board?
Yes, Darren Engler here.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. England.
All right, Darren Engler, 32347 County Road 12. I am opposed to the mask, or to the proposed county ordinance that you guys are discussing. There's already been some good points raised tonight for you guys to ponder, and I'm going to add to that. Please listen, and I think it's your responsibility to do your due diligence with info presented to you by many constituents. Chris Meyer, you constantly talk about how few beds we have available in our healthcare facilities. I'm afraid you actually believe it's because of COVID hospitalizations. A previous speaker tonight touched on this as well. A little research will show you it's because of short staffing. So my question is, why do you continue to push this false rhetoric? This is a serious question for you, Chris. You also talk about thresholds, and I'm afraid you're not aware the thresholds have changed over the past few months. A high threshold now looks more like a low or medium threshold before. Again, a little bait and switch in my opinion. It's also your guys' responsibility to use common sense and look at your surroundings, such as masks. Where does the virus particles go when we remove our masks? I'm seriously looking for an answer. What do you guys think? Does it magically die? I mean, we take these masks off, we throw them on the table next to us, next to somebody else. We put them in our pocket. I mean, if this virus is airborne, it's coming off the masks and it's being airborne again. It just makes no sense. And I don't think anybody's looking at the common sense of this. Again, why is there no way of disposing of these masks? If they're so effective and catch and trap the virus particles, we should have a standard procedure for disposal. Have any of you ever heard of any such procedure? Where is any standard of mask specifications? Anything remotely resembling a mask qualifies as a mask. It could be a t-shirt, could be some see-through netting type I've seen around. Paper mask from a store that says right on the box it won't stop a virus. Again, common sense makes us question this. Ask yourself how this works, because in all honesty, your constituents are asking these questions. Look around at the so-called pandemic, packed stadiums and gatherings. Even Sonneman, I saw a picture of Sonneman at a wedding recently posing for pictures, and then they were on Facebook. And yeah, you guessed it, no mask. Does this make any sense to you people? You wonder why people are getting frustrated with the county board. Just listen to these statements, and I think you can see why. In closing, I believe it is your duty to protect county residents, just like many of you have responded in emails. I also believe it is your duty to do your due diligence in sorting through data provided to you. I'm not a lawyer, but I would bet as an elected official, you could be held liable for ignoring hard evidence provided to you for review. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Is there anyone wishing to address the Winona County Board? And for the third and final time.
I would like to address the county board.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Regina Alexander. I live at 1352 Skyline Drive in Winona. And a lot of my peers have brought up a lot of good information tonight, so I'm not going to reiterate that, but I just want to speak from my heart because I think we all know that COVID is just, it's horrible. It's been a horrible 2 years. It's been frustrating, and there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of media problems going on around COVID, and that includes Chris Rogers, who took one of my comments and just put that part in the post, which was very unconstitutional on his part, and I don't agree with that. So here, I grew up in Minneapolis, Northeast Minneapolis. I watched my city burn. I watched the governor do nothing about it. I watched the mayor do nothing about it. I watched the peoples in leadership do nothing about it, but watch that city burn. And my problem with Winona is, this has been my home for 12 years now. It's been my community. I have friends here. I have family here. My kids go to school here. I go to church here. I know people here. We see you guys around town. We know who you are. We know your background. We know our leaders. We know the people we go to church with. We know the people that our kids go to school with. This is our small town, and it's ripping our town apart, and I'm just frankly done with it. We are old enough as adults to make decisions on our own lives, and we don't need people in power trying to take that away and trying to get more power. It's ridiculous, and that's what this ordinance is doing. You guys are manipulating the words so that we don't know what actually it stands for, but we know what it stands for. You're trying to take power away from the citizens, and I think enough is enough. Let us get over COVID and get on with our lives. COVID is going to be around. You're not going to hide from it. My whole family got it. I know many people that had it. We survived it. It's not a death sentence for everybody. It can be dangerous for some, but not for everybody. And I think enough is enough. Like, get back to reality. Let's get back to living. Let's get back to loving each other in this community. And let's get back to just being a community instead of ripping each other apart. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call. Is there anyone wishing to address the Winona County Board? Hearing nobody and seeing nobody come to the podium. Thank you very much for the comments. We'll move on to item 5, approval of the county board meeting minutes from November 9th, 2021.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi to approve the meeting minutes November 9th, 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, approved. Item 6, acknowledge receipt of the approved committee meeting minutes, and 6.1 is the Economic Development Authority from April 22, 2021.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi to approve the meeting minutes from the Economic Development Authority, April 22 of 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those nay. Okay, approved. Consent comments and approval of the agenda. Mr. Fritz, is there anything?
Add or change?
Okay. Commissioner Kavesi?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Commissioner Meyer?
No, I have nothing, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Olson?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Jacob?
Nothing for me.
Okay, and I will just have a short little thing. Attorney Solomon? Nothing for me. Okay, all right. With that, we will ask Mr. Fritz, would you read the items into the consent business for the record, please?
Did you approve the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't change anything.
Sometimes I miss things, but
usually we change something.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Olson to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those nay. Okay, it's approved. Now, please read into the.
All right, I'll read the consent agenda into the record. Department recommendations, 8.1, approved 2022 county board meeting schedule. 8.2, approved proposal for Braun Intertech for jail environmental consulting. 8.3, approve LG 220 gambling application for exempt permit for Winona Sportsman's Club. 8.4, approve LG 214 premise permit application and resolution for Country Climbers Snowmobile Club. 8.5, approve Winona Health Services for mental illness involuntary hold service contract and business associate agreement. 8.6, approve renewal of interagency agreement for Region 10 contracting services to clarify roles and services provided by Region 10 contracting unit to participating counties. 8.7, approve renewal of purchase contract with Driftless Region Vector Control LLC for mosquito abatement services. 8.8, approve monthly resolution. 8.9, approve section 125 plan. 8.10, discuss, approve special benefit tax levy resolution and approve budget for fiscal year 2022. 8.11, confirm payment of disbursements. That concludes the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi to approve the consent business as read. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, that is approved. Thank you. General business. 9.1, accept the 2021 County of the Year Award from Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust.
We have Maureen Holte online to talk about that, or she's coming in. Okay, good. Glad you could come in. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, I guess I just wanted to say a few words. Excuse me. We are honored to be the recipient of the County of the Year Award. Most certainly took us by surprise. There are many aspects of risk management in the last couple of years. We've experienced some unprecedented situations. COVID caused us to look at things in a creative way and to coordinate safety measures quickly to provide the safest environment for everyone. Implementing the governor's orders, adequate social distancing, remote working equipment and procedures, supplies for proper cleaning and sanitizing facilities, and providing equipment. All of those things were challenging. Listening to the needs of the employees, management, and the customers led us to the success of managing the overall risk. Creating and maintaining a safe environment for our employees and citizens continues to be a high priority for us. As well as staying on top of general risk control issues such as consulting with MCIT on contract language, loss control, coverage reviews, staff risk management training, liability risk assessments, property and casualty claims, and workers' comp items. I want to thank all of the administrative staff, personnel staff, IT, emergency management, Health and Human Services, and the maintenance department, as well as management for assisting in implementing the safety measures for Winona County. We couldn't have achieved this honor without everyone. Thank you.
And if I could add in, for the general population to know, the Minnesota Counties Intergovernmental Trust is 81 counties of the 87 in the great state of Minnesota, plus a number of soil and water conservation districts, some historical societies, and some other entities. It is a pool that's joined together to obtain our risk management, which is our property casualty claims and our workman's compensation claims. So this award really goes to all our county employees who've avoided falling down, having back injuries or twisted ankles, and our jail staff for having no catastrophic happenings there. Of course, the weather is great. We have had no catastrophic weather events, which can cause huge claims in a county this size or any county. It covers all those things, and as Ms. Holte pointed out, that it is a lot of different elements that come together. And for Winona County to be the County of the Year out of 81 counties plus organization, it is an accomplishment of all county staff to have that. Now just remember, don't walk out and fall, trip, or slip, or do anything that will get you hurt, or don't hit a deer, or don't just do anything that puts Winona County at risk. But there will be a presentation, and I think Ms. Holte and a number of her staff will be present. It's at the Association of Minnesota County Awards conference coming up the first week of December. But it is something, and I have to say, I do sit on the board, but they didn't hold it against us because I sit on the board. It is a very pointed system of how counties are ranked to receive this award. So I was very glad that my fellow board members did not hold it against me in fun and joking, but it is a great honor, and congratulations. And again, it's for all the county staff that have done a good job to avoid any problems. So thank you. So
Madam Chair?
yes, Commissioner. Martin.
Yes, thank you so much. Maureen, and I guess the rest of the staff, anyone who is there, congratulations and thank you for your hard work. I will say that attending the safety committee meeting since I was elected, I know that our staff takes this seriously, and they all do a great job. So I'm really proud of them.
Does the award parlay into any reduction in rates?
Unfortunately, no.
Well, it will if the mod rate goes down.
Yes. If we had high rates, if the rolls were returned, would that parlay into higher premiums for the county, which in turn would be the citizens?
Right. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It's an indirect cost savings. Absolutely. There is no cash that comes with the award. It's just, I think we get a plaque. But you're absolutely right. If we all keep doing a good job, it does reduce our rates.
Which is a benefit to the taxpayer.
Right. It is definitely a benefit to the taxpayer.
The mod rate has about a 3-year lag or something. So it's maybe taken on the last 3 years. And we did have a kind of a large accident a few years ago. So that'll be rolling off soon.
Yeah. And we're part of a pool also. So there is a pool effect there that we are helping the pool. Now,
do we need a motion to accept the award?
Building a new jail will raise our premium because that's going to be a huge dollar amount that we have to insure.
I would suggest a motion because then it's reflected in the record.
Okay, yeah, to accept.
I'll move to accept the 2021 County of the Year Award from MCIT.
Second. Third. Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Kavesi to accept the County of the Year Award. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those nay. Okay, approved. Again, thank you, Ms. Holte and your staff, and all county employees. Moving 9.2, discuss and appoint Citizen Advisory Committee volunteer and approve resolution. And that is for the Personnel Board of Appeals. Oh, Maureen left. We have one new applicant, Meg Krinky, I think it is. I was unable to get a hold of her. As I've said in the past, I usually try and get to know the person who we're appointing.
This is just basically a 45-day.
Yeah, it's a short term.
And then that person would have to apply again with everyone else on the first.
Well,
yeah.
But
under our rules, if you're already on the committee, typically if you reapply, you get reappointed.
Right.
Depending on.
I guess maybe here's Ms. Holte.
Would this count as a term?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yes, Ms. Holte, we have a question. Is this just fulfilling a term, or is this considered a new term?
This would be a 45-day
There's a
appointment.
vacancy
It's just for the remainder of this year.
and
Yep.
and do we know at this time if this person has applied for this?
2022, they did not.
That answers that question.
It's too late for them to apply.
Unless there remains a total vacancy, we post again. Unless we don't get any applicants, we post again, as with any committees. Okay, so it is a 45-day. Thank you for that clarification. Do we have a motion or?
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Olson to appoint apologize, Meg Krinky for the opening on the Personnel Board. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay? Okay, approved. All right. Please advise her then, Ms. Holte. Thank you. All right, 9.3, discuss and approve outside agency funding for 2022.
So as you,
Fritz?
so as you recall, we, the board discussed these individually and had some presentations from those that had asked for an increase. And the numbers haven't changed since that working session. But tonight we need the board to either, this list will appear as it is in the proposed budget at the TNT meeting unless the county board takes action tonight to change some of the numbers. So this is an opportunity to review those numbers, change any of them that you want to going forward, and then they would be included in the proposed budget that goes before the board on December 14th for the TNT meeting. And as I said, if you don't you don't make any motions or you don't change any of them, this is not the increase, but what I recommended with the
final column.
Well, hang on, mine's upside down here, so
Farthest to the right.
right, it would be the budgeted right now. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Meyer.
I would like to move to adjust the Advocacy Center budget and give them the full amount that they've requested. So that is a motion, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to fulfill the advocacy center, meaning the Women's Resource Center, to the total of $15,760 versus
Yes.
$15,300.
Yep.
Are you talking about the senior center or the
No.
Advocacy,
or the
women's
women's?
resource.
Oh, okay, women's resource. Okay.
$460 difference.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, $500 and some, yeah.
460.
Okay. Are we, a question in process, are we doing each one individually, or are we just, are you?
Yeah, he's, the administrator
wanted to
just
change?
said that they'll stand as is unless we change them.
Okay, so your motion is to raise the Women's Advocacy Center from the, or back to the requested amount.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Discussion?
I'll just
Yeah, Commissioner Jacob.
basically justify my vote against raising them. That's a very small amount, but I feel like it's unfair to the remainder of the requests because we're holding them to a standard, similar to where they were in the past, and to single one group out and give them even a minimal raise just feels like it's really not being fair with the rest of them. So I'm going to vote against the raise.
Okay, I think, did we receive an email late today about,
Yep.
said something? I guess I question, they have $120,000 in what we have titled as unrestricted reserves. And I don't know what they intend to do with that money. You're right, it's a small amount, but if we start changing them, then to treat them.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Meyer.
So as I said, when we've discussed this in the past, the listening sessions that we conducted indicated that these are services that individuals in the county want and asked for. Because it's a nonprofit, we are leveraging contributions of private individuals. And so for the services that they provide, which is for our victims of domestic abuse, and that whole range of servicing, we are getting more than what we are paying for. And in addition to that, these are the kind of services that also prevent future difficulties for people. So I would love to fund all of the programs at the level that they've requested, but in particular in this time, I really feel like it's the community services that mean so much to us that we really do need to go ahead and fund, because it's been many years since they've gotten increases.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Kavesi.
Yes, I went back to my notes from the listening session and or the listening sessions, And the many times that people mentioned things like mentoring and advocacy and direct services that are needed in this county puts me in a mind to support this motion. The amount is small. If we do, the consequences of not funding this increase, I think would impact on our human services budget. And I'd rather pay the money and have the agency taking care of these things before they reach us in human services.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, just,
Commissioner Jacob.
I understand the concept of it's sufficient, and according to Commissioner Meyer, we're getting more than what we pay for. But I view this as it's not what we pay for, it's what the taxpayer pays for. So does it maybe, from a business standpoint, if we were a business, make sense? That would be different than looking at it from, we're spending the citizens' money. So that we're getting more for what we're taking from somebody else. So I just don't, I don't support taking more from the citizenry. So I'll stand with my vote against it.
So the motion is to raise the advocacy center from $15,300 to the original requested $15,760. Any further discussion? I do have to question the comment. Yeah, leveraging dollars, and as Commissioner Jacob said, we're not really leveraging dollars. We're just taking taxpayer dollars and allocating them. So I guess, you know, if an organization came in and they had some fundraisers and they had, you know, raised X number of dollars and it somehow we matched or gave a proportion, maybe that would be more fair. But again, I've expressed this before, this philanthropic giving of property tax dollars is very difficult for me. So I'll stand by my decision there. So all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, that particular line item then goes up to $15,760.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Meyer.
in addition to that, I would like to fund Big Brother, Big Sister at the full amount that they have requested. That is a motion.
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second to fund Big Brother, Big Sister at the full amount, and that is, they asked for $30,000 and we've budgeted $15,000. So that would be an increase of $15,000. And we have been historically at the $15,000. Discussion. Commissioner Jacob.
Well, we've been at 15,000 for a number of years. And so that, I mean, that's not a small, that's a 100% increase. If we did that across the board, I mean, to justify it, take a 100% tax increase to the people paying for this. So.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah. So I asked the director after he visited us, and I think he shared with us some of the statistics about how mentoring of youth ends up keeping them from getting into lots of trouble later on, which again, as Commissioner Kavesi was talking about the advocacy center, this ends up saving us money later. And it is also the whole concept of preventative action for juveniles that are having difficulties in the county was rated as a really important thing during the listening sessions. So when I asked the director, he said that he was going to hire an additional person. He would be expanding services and he would be expanding the number of mentors and mentees. So he calls them littles. He wants to expand that number by almost double inside Winona County.
And I apologize, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but I remember asking, I think to me, it was a very small number of children that he was helping. Like, for some reason, 15 comes to mind. Do you have your information there, what he currently was servicing?
30.
Was it 30?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize for that. That's still a small number in my mind for the number of children. Commissioner Jacob.
Well, it's easy to want to sit here and feel good about doing good things for the community, and we could justify every increase to every one of these if we wanted to, go through that process and explain why they're doing good things and how it's justifiable. But every time it's at the expense of the taxpayer, and somebody has to stand in defense of the people who are going to pay for these. So I feel like we could be talking about having decreases instead of increases, but the median ground is to leave it at 0, which I've supported. So I'll support keeping them where they were and taking that much money from the taxpayer, but I'm not going to ask for more. So I can't support this motion either.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Olson.
I'm not going to support the motion either, but I would remind, everybody that we're building a $28 million jail. That 15,000 here might have saved us a couple million down the road, but that's the type of investment we make in these citizens of Winona, our fellow citizens, to hopefully get them on the right path. But I'm not going to support the motion.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah. So our out-of-home placement costs from, let's say, 6 years ago went from a few $100,000 to $2.5 million. And so I'm still making the case of 15,000 in the same way that Commissioner Olson is saying it would have saved us on the jail. It would also save us on out-of-home placements.
It's hard to disagree with that, but it's also very hard to come up with facts that support that. It is philosophically, it's a good thing to say, yeah, we're taking care of kids, we're doing things, but I don't know. And the big brothers and big sisters have been in the community for a number of years, but you just pointed out how much our dollars have gone up in out-of-home placement. So again, it's hard for me to struggle to see that they're really doing what we're asking them, or what they're proposing to do. And I've long been an advocate. Hey, we all get a property tax statement if we own property in the Winona County. Put in an extra envelope and an extra sheet. If you want to give 10, 15 bucks to any of these organizations, we'll collect it and we'll disperse it. I don't know if too many people have made that offer, but I still would.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Kavesi.
Yeah. I think we all know how complicated some families and some children, how complicated their lives have become. So I'm not going to comment on that. And I agree with Commissioner Jacob. These are good things to do. These are prevention. These you can pay now, or you can cause families and our youth a lot of quality of life issues and still pay later and probably pay more later. So I'm in favor of the motion because to me it's a prevention action, and it goes directly towards our youth, and it was strongly supported by the listening sessions. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll move this on. We have a motion to increase the big brother, big sister from 15 as projected in a 2022 budget up to 30. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, it fails. It will be at the 15 as budgeted. Do I have a motion to approve the budgeted item column with the change in the Women's Advocacy Center?
My understanding that it would stand if there was no action, there's only been action taken in one.
If there's no action,
Oh, okay.
my intention is to put them in
The
the
budget
proposed
as-
budget as we presented it previously to you.
Right, and that's that last line on page, I don't know what page is that? It's the 2022 budgeted. In our board packet.
146,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
final column, with the exception of the
147, yeah.
Advocacy Center.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And we move on. All right, moving on, 9.4, receive update on disabled American Veterans Transportation Program. And Ms. Holtby or?
Yeah, it's my understanding at the last meeting, which I wasn't at, there was some request for some information, and Maureen has done the research and has some information. She's online to provide that.
Okay, Ms. Holte. Ms. Holte? Are you in the building? Ms. Holte, we're looking for information on the Disabled American Veterans Transportation Program.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So we did do some research. We have determined that there are approximately 3,012 veterans living in Winona County. The DAV currently has 3 drivers that are volunteering to provide transportation services to the veterans in Winona County. So there are areas of the county in which individuals may have poor cellular service or reception, which is impacting the ability to receive phone calls. They're not hearing a lot of that, but they have heard that could be a problem in some areas. We were able to confirm that drivers were being paid directly by veterans using their voucher and then reimbursing the driver. That practice has stopped as the DAV vehicle is owned by and registered to the Veterans Administration. And such it is a federal vehicle, and they cannot have that reimbursement take place as it is considered to be fraudulent. So we have concluded that there could be times in which a veteran is scheduled for an appointment and the vehicle that is available for use for transportations may be going in an opposite direction than the veteran is needing to go. So there haven't been a lot of those situations to their knowledge, but they have knowledge of a couple of times. We also were able to determine that the DAV vehicle was recently out of service for a week due to relocation of the vehicle and installation of a lockbox. Overall, they are not aware of complaints of calls not being returned. They do have a message on their machine, their answer machine, saying to expect up to 2 days to have a return call. So in a nutshell, we are not seeing that there are transportation issues. Do things happen? Yes. But it's not like a clear-cut problem, if you will. We do recommend that if we have veterans who have concerns to call Mr. Anderson. And if you are receiving calls from veterans, to check with Mr. Anderson to see if he has already addressed the issue or if there's something else he is potentially looking into to help resolve.
Question, Ms. Holte, does Mr. Anderson need more volunteer drivers, or is that need being met?
Well, there's always the need. You know, the more flexibility they have, the better. Most certainly they're making it work with the 3 they have, but most certainly he would be welcoming if we had a few more.
Okay, so if there's anybody out in the community that would want to volunteer, they should just contact Mr. Anderson directly?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, thank you. Ms. Holte sent us an email earlier regarding this issue, and she had some potential areas of research or consideration at the end. And I wondered if, so it sounds like you had a discussion with the DAV about recruiting folks maybe from the colleges to be volunteers. And then there's a couple other recommendations. Are any of those ones that you think we should take up?
I think if we can reach out to some of those and see if it's a possibility to get some volunteers, it most certainly can't hurt. Most certainly we're working with Mr. Anderson on those, you know, when time allows for him to do that.
Sure. And is that something that you are suggesting that potentially staff would do, or that we as commissioners might use our connections to try and encourage more volunteer drivers?
I think anyone who has connections would be more than welcome. Most certainly Mr. Anderson and the staff over there will continue to reach out and and do what they can to obtain some volunteers.
Okay, and it not looked like, I hate to see vets struggling. It looked to me like one of the suggestions was that potentially there would be some alternative if the individual is not just a veteran, but potentially qualifies for certain other services that would provide free rides. Is that true?
We'd need to research what options we have within our community, yes.
Okay, and so, I would like to see that just so that folks had a backup. If the vans aren't available, if the vans are broken down, I really do want our veterans to get good service getting to their doctor appointments. So, I appreciate all the work that you've done. I would love it if there was a way for us to make sure that they had some other kind of an alternative.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob.
Yeah, Assistant Administrator Holte. So this discussion really was precipitated by Mr. Decker coming to the podium at the last meeting, and then in the email you sent, you kind of laid out that this wasn't a widespread problem, that it was maybe Mr. Decker, and I think we had one other gentleman here that agreed with Mr. Decker. But have we reached back out to Mr. Decker and made a connection between him and Tom Anderson to resolve his concerns in particular?
We did try to contact them, but we have not received a return call.
Well, I would hope that we would follow up on that.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Just coincidental, and veterans are highly regarded and have done a great service to the country. But I happened to be, after the two gentlemen came, I happened to be in the metro area, and I was watching, I think it was one of the network news shows, and the one gentleman, I apologize, Kowalski, or maybe can anybody help me with the other gentleman? Anyway, he was making license plates. He makes signs out of license plates. And here he was on Minneapolis TV station showing off his wares of license plate art and signs and everything. Hey, I just met that guy. It was so cool that he was on the Metropolitan news show. So thank you for all the veterans. So we will follow up with Mr. Anderson and Mr. Decker and
follow up and copy me in person, please, not the whole board.
Okay, will do.
All right, thank you, Ms. Holte. Moving on, 9.5, discuss, approve, deny extending COVID-19 local emergency resolution. And this is on page 149. Okay, and is this going to be?
Well, I can just give you a brief. Our current, the board passed a emergency resolution previously, which will expire November 30th. So if the board wants to continue that emergency state, the board needs to pass a new resolution, and this one provides that through, if it was passed through for 90 days. So again, extending it. And one of the things that this specifically lets us do is to respond to emergencies, especially when FEMA is involved or other funding sources are involved. There are certain actions you can take that the emergency services director and our public health people would have more understanding of. But in talking to them, and as you know, because we've been through this now for almost 2 years in terms of these things, it just allows the things that we've been doing to continue to go forward with less, I guess, bureaucracy. It doesn't affect things like policy like for instance, the next issue that's on the board agenda. It doesn't factor into those kind of things for the most part.
I got a question for Ben.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Clay, last time we extended this, you had indicated, I know there was some dialogue, that it allows you to get reimbursement for some things that we're doing with the vaccination clinics, perhaps?
Correct. So when we're in a declared emergency, we can use agreements we have in our emergency plan. So we have agreements with the city of Winona, for example, for mutual aid. So we've been using their firefighters who are trained paramedics to give vaccinations. That could continue without an emergency, but we would have to go through a contracting process. So come November 30th, the vaccine clinics we have scheduled in December, we wouldn't be able to use that staff and pay that staff without going through the full contractual process. We went through the process when we created the emergency plan, the mutual aid, but that's locked away. That's only used when there's a declared emergency. So, and we've used FEMA funding in the past, some of the stuff Ms. Holte talked about with the stuff for social distancing, the stuff for cleaning, we've purchased with FEMA funds. We need to do that again in the future. We could do that with the emergency. It's the procedural to keep that going. When we were here the last time, I was really hopeful I wouldn't have to be standing up here.
Yeah, we all were.
But now with the booster shots, we ramped back up doing the booster shot clinics. We have those scheduled right now through December 22nd. We're gonna review mid-December, see what the need of the community is, if we're still seeing high numbers that need and are coming to. And what we're doing with public health, as opposed to what our healthcare systems are doing, is we're getting out into our small communities using this fire department staff. We're getting out even in Lewiston, St. Charles. We're doing our homebound people. We're using that staff. So we've been advertising different ways. Public health has been calling, and then we'll have a small team go out and go. So if somebody's homebound and they request a vaccination, instead of them having to go through whatever rigmarole they'd have to, we take that vaccination to them. And that's what we're using that FEMA funding for.
So how many, I'm sorry, this term emergency powers and everything is kind of, it's run its course. In my opinion, it has less effectiveness now because we have a governor that has not extended any emergency powers. We have a president that hasn't really extended any emergency powers. And here you're telling us I need emergency powers to do something that only makes common sense, and that the board would say, go ahead and do anyway. So, I mean, what kind of FEMA, I'm unfamiliar with these FEMA dollars that we would get to do this work, because my neighboring counties aren't doing this. So what makes us unique in doing this? And you would not do your job if we didn't have this emergency. You are directed to be the emergency manager. So you would continue to do the same job and the same good work about all these clinics, everything. So if we don't pass this, what would you not do?
Well, I would have to get a contract with the city of Winona, because the one we have in the emergency plan would be no good. So it would stop the work we're doing in December.
And that would be, I'm sorry, that would be relatively easy because we have a contract now. It could just be continued. It could be amended.
I guess that would be a question for Attorney Simon.
Well, I mean, it might be the basis of a further agreement, but it may have to be revised, but you still have to go through the process with the county board to approve it. So you delay the ability to use firefighters in those situations for probably the next month.
The one we have goes until
Once the emergency declaration expires on November 30th, it wouldn't be in effect anymore.
November 30th.
Right, the agreement we have. So, and what I was trying to articulate, and I think Ben did a much better job, is that it makes his job and our staff's job a lot easier. That's the part that we're advocating to move that under 90 days. So.
There's one of me, yes, I can do all of that stuff, but right now, I feel I should be concentrating on the clinics and vaccinating the people that want to be vaccinated, providing it to the people who can't necessarily get to their healthcare provider, doing the stuff out in our smaller communities and stuff.
Right, but I guess maybe I'm not making myself clear. By not extending this emergency powers, you would still be doing that stuff.
Sure, but it would be.
If the county board said, Ben Klinger, you will still do all the clinics and all the vaccinations that you can and everything, you would still do it. I wouldn't need to say, quote, emergency. Because all the verbiage we're getting that this is no longer an emergency, this is a way of life. So I guess I'm getting hung up on the word of emergency, policies. So how long are you asking to extend this again?
90 days.
90 days?
Yeah. And I didn't write that extension,
So moved.
90 days isn't coming.
I second.
Okay, we have a
You want
motion
longer?
made by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi to extend the emergency. What's the emergency public health ordinance? No, that's not the ordinance. That's the,
It's local emergency.
yeah, to extend the COVID-19 local emergency resolution. Any further discussion? Commissioner Jacob?
Well, I'll just rationalize my vote against it. When we're continually under a state of emergency, to me, it diminishes to the community what an emergency is. I mean, what if we have something really big happen and, I don't know, flood, tornado, river spill, something like that, and we're already under a state of emergency, it becomes to me like the boy that cried wolf. We're just always under emergency, and it has less effectiveness in my view. So I'm voting against it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, passes 3-2. 90 days. All right. Item 9.6, discuss provide direction for potential public health emergency ordinance draft. And I think we've had people patiently waiting in here. I want to outline what our normal procedure is on a proposed ordinance. There will be discussion tonight. There is no public input other than what we received at the 2-minute thing. There is no public input.
Tonight.
We will discuss ourselves. We have to set a public hearing.
Only if this moves forward.
Right, if this moves forward, but there will be no vote on the adopting the ordinance tonight, correct?
Right.
Am I correct, there's no vote to adopt. It's just for discussion purposes tonight. And then, if the majority decides to move it forward, then we would set a public hearing date, which has to be within a time frame, and then
Proper notice has to be given and it has to be published and.
Right.
It has to be at least 10 days before the public hearing.
Yeah, we have guidelines for that.
Yeah.
And then at some point after that, a potential vote could be taken. It could be moved forward to vote, or it could be
Either right after the public hearing, or you could decide to
Right, to-
set another time.
Okay, so I just wanted the public to know that there is no definitive vote here tonight. All right, thank you. All right. So let's discuss. Attorney Son, or Commissioner Jacob.
Yeah, so I think the impetus of this to begin with was a potential mask mandate. And then I think Attorney Sonneman noted that really we didn't have the authority. We needed to do this ordinance prior to a mask mandate to really give ourselves the power to do that. Am I stating that correctly?
Not exactly, I mean,
Why don't you state it correctly for me?
this comes under your role as the Winona County Community Health Board. And under the powers of 145A, which is statutory authority by the Winona County Community Health Board, and you operate as the local community health board. Every county has a community health board. Some, I think, have joint county boards, or excuse me, community health boards. So I want to clarify that, again, there are specific powers authorized under the community health statute, 145A, which give you the authority to act, frankly, to do a mask mandate if you wanted, or any public health measure. But I felt that it would be important, and it was asked for really to have consideration. I think it was Commissioner Meyer, as it indicates here, Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Olson, to establish this county ordinance. Because right now, the only person that can call for some kind of public health or emergency regulation is the county board chair. And so during...
And that could be upheld by a majority of the board if the chair enacted it.
Yes, but if the chair never enacted it, it could never come before the board. So this ordinance would address public health
crises, whether they be floods, whether they be, as I said, yes, in the article, the plague. Hopefully not. We don't want a plague. But again, it's very, I want to make it very clear, first of all, this is not the Sonneman ordinance. I was asked by 3 members, really in a 3-2 vote of the county board, to draft a ordinance, just like I have been asked in the past, Commissioner Jacob, to draft a ATV ordinance from you. So I was asked in my capacity as county attorney, and my role as county attorney is to serve as your counsel in civil matters, and that includes drafting language to meet what I understood you were asking for as a board.
Did you ever have any conversations with any of the commissioners outside of the meeting prior to the meeting where they voted to do this?
No, I had no conversations. I drafted this ordinance. Actually, it was ready in September, just prior to the time I left for my medical issues. Administrator Fritz, I shared the draft with Administrator Fritz. I also shared the draft with the COVID incident command team that we have, that you are aware of. That includes Director Sanis of Health and Human Services, our Public Health Director, our Emergency Management Director, Ben Klinger. So they'd all have input on this. And then Administrator Fritz made a few edits. I guess he and I went back and forth, right? We went back and forth on a few things. So in terms of the actual draft that you see here, no, I had no conversations in terms of drafting with any of you. So.
Can I just add to that, since Karen opened the door on the issue of the formation of the ordinance? Karen did provide a draft of the ordinance back early on, I think in September or so. And then we started to look at it, and there were a number of questions that I had. And Karen, we went back and forth trying to answer some of those questions. And then I had a vacation. Karen had some other issues to address. Yes. Yeah. So, and then after that, we worked on it again. Most of my concerns, we probably will discuss at some point, but there were a number of things. This is new territory, and it's something that hasn't really, it's not something we can take a boilerplate ordinance from someplace else and just say, this is what other places have done, so here's what we can do. So we went back and forth quite a bit on it to try to get something that we feel met the request of the board, but also, followed the law, protected liability as much as possible, and all the kind of other things we'd want to do in any kind of good public policy that was passed. So, and we have our own, opinions on that ordinance as it stands. And of course, we can share those with the board as we move forward. But that kind of sets the stage for how we got here. And you can add anything else that.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, there are other local government jurisdictions that have not exactly the similar thing, but this is not unique. There are other parts of the country, and well, specifically, there's mask mandates.
Which
but
many of them are being challenged at a higher legal
I agree,
level.
right? But I'm just saying, as far as
litigation is pending.
As far as Winona County being on the cutting edge on this, part of that is true. But I don't. The thing with sometimes lawyers cut and paste. Okay, so there are the other thing. This ordinance is right out of the statute, pretty much. And the other thing I wanted to note about this ordinance proposal, well, first of all, it's definitely a proposal. And as was recommended also by administration and your staff, is that we obtain a risk management review by MCIT, speaking of MCIT, and doing our due diligence as we were awarded the annual award. So it has not been, and part of that is, as Mr. Fritz mentioned, we had some intervening circumstances that delayed this coming before you that were unforeseen, let's say.
So, yeah, and as far as the status of it goes, Karen pointed out that we still haven't had MCIT review it. And then there's also at least, one outstanding question I had asked Karen, and I'm not sure that we've been able to pin that down. And I mentioned that because this is complicated. I mean, it seems a very short ordinance, but in terms of the enacting authority, not just the legislation and not just the sites and the cases from other places in the country, it comes down to what authority does the board have in Minnesota, not necessarily, because we're not in another state. So there's a lot of questions, I think, but we're here to try to answer those, and then find out, research them if there's anything else we need to do. If the board decides to move forward, I think that there's more discussion that has to be done in order to answer some of those questions. If the board doesn't decide to go forward, then it's pretty much a moot point.
So
Mr. Jacob.
yeah. So am I understanding if so that if the chair fails to act in the whatever method the board would want the chair to act in, this takes really that authority away from it takes one more layer away from maybe the citizens to the government. So now any board majority, without having a chair sitting in the same position, can impose, let me get this right, a mask mandate, right?
That would be
a vaccine mandate, would that be possible?
Theoretically, yes. I mean, it's about public health. I'm sorry, what?
A stay-at-home order, would that be within the realm?
Yes.
A quarantine?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay, these are things that constituents have asked me to ask.
And I understand that because I've gotten the same questions.
Could it bar unvaccinated people from entry to public buildings and businesses?
Theoretically, yes. If the board decided it and that there was grounds for it. Again, yes.
Could this board impose vaccination passports?
To enter the county? I'm not sure what, I mean.
Enter or leave.
I think that would not pass any constitutional muster.
So any flu season, could we impose lockdowns?
Theoretically, yes. If it got so bad.
So, and how do you envision this being enforced? Who's supposed to, are we asking Quick Trip to tell their 16-year employee to deal with the belligerent 50-year-old person who's got no time for it, or who's gonna enforce it?
Well, that's a good question, and the language, particularly in I don't know if it's in this one, it would be encouraging voluntary enforcement, and it's a civil, it's a
$100 fine.
$100 fine. Yep.
Right. But it does say in your almighty statutes, it says you cannot neglect to enforce.
Well, and again,
right above where it says you can adopt an ordinance. So you cannot neglect. So a voluntary is that neglect or is that?
So coincidentally, I represent St. Charles, Altura, Rolling Stone, Stockton, Alba, a bunch of small cities. This feels to me like we're taking away their right to govern their city, and we're going to say, hey, you're going to do what our county says. I don't want to.
Commissioner Jacobs, I just have to take you back to, this is acting as the Winona County Community Health Board, and there are, again, 145A has very specific roles and responsibilities of the Community Health Board. So this statute is the statute is what is being used as a grounds to first of all write this ordinance, and would support the ordinance. But yes, there can always be a constitutional challenge. None of those cities have a local public health board. So you are, if you decided to do this, it would be in your work as community health board.
Well, didn't the city of Winona, didn't the mayor try to enact a citywide mask mandate?
Under Chapter 12.
So you're saying the city of Winona is different than the city of Rolling Stone or the city of St. Charles or city of
No, I mean, the mayor of St. Charles or Altura or any of the cities in your jurisdiction could do under the emergency.
Yeah, but
If they had an ordinance that allowed that.
But
I mean, I'm trying to remember if the city of Winona has that.
The city,
under
yeah,
the
but it
statute.
just mirrors the state statute.
Yeah.
So the mayor of a town can declare the emergency.
So.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
if
it's,
there's not a local.
Yeah, but if
health board,
we're the higher authority, so once we do it, we've taken that power away from them to decide whether that's right for their community.
acting as the Winona County Community Health Board, which again has very specific duties and very specific responsibilities, and also can't act just on a whim.
Right, but I think you're it's again, a lawyer term, it's a matter of interpretation. Yes, there are very specific responsibilities we have as the Community Health Board, and we are following. The duties are, identifying local public health priorities. We do that. Assuring adequate public health infrastructure. We've done that. Promoting healthy communities. Preventing the spread of communicable diseases. Ben just said how many clinics we have and testing things and everything. We're doing that. Protecting it against environmental health hazards. Preparing and responding to emergencies by engaging in activities. Assuring health services. Yes, we're doing that. Submitting to the Commissioner of Health, a 5-year plan, implementing a performance management process, and annually reporting to the Commissioner. We are doing that. That are spelled out as our duties, and we're doing that. But in statutes will come and haunt you some days, as we know, as you said earlier this evening, in 145A, it says county board may adopt various ordinances. May, it's not shall. And right, and tell me what other counties in the great state of Minnesota have adopted anything relative to this
one of
scope
the
of
things
ordinance.
in just observing the conversation is that there are really two things going on here. One is this is an ordinance that was asked to be drafted, and so the ordinance is drafted in front of you. Defending the ordinance is really not what we were asked to do. So that is something you have to do among yourselves. The board members need to discuss the merits of the ordinance. Now, when it comes,
pointing out that we can.
what we can tell you is what it does, or what it could do, or what you could. Some of the questions you asked about, could you do this under the ordinance? Could you do this under the ordinance? Those are factual, and we can answer those.
Yeah. So again, and then it says here, to answer Commissioner Jacobs' thing, county may adopt various ordinances, and this is 145A-.005. Cities and towns may adopt ordinances relating to public health, but they must not conflict with or be less restrictive than those adopted by the county board. So when the city tried to do it, of course, the mayor tried to do it, and then the city council did not support that. So the city
Under the current process or the current law, the chair of the board can adopt an emergency measure, such as a mask mandate. They have 72 hours before it either expires, or the county board would have to approve it to continue on, or rescind it. That's how it works now.
Yes, and I think that's a very important check and balance. This ordinance, the draft ordinance, puts that power into the county board's hands, and then it does require, I understand it did add a public hearing, but it really we're losing an important step in the checks and balances of the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Olson.
Okay. If anybody read the paper, Chris Rogers had quoted me that I'm not supporting a mask mandate, so he could have saved a trip to town. Everything that Commissioner Jacob just asked, all those draconian measures that we can take, we can do that now if the board chair so choose, right?
If there's justification,
Right.
there's an emergency. Yeah.
So you
And for
say
72 hours.
Right,
Yeah, and it was within 72 hours, and you say checks and balances. So January 1st, we could have a new board chair.
We probably will.
Then
No, I don't think it's the first. It might be the 5th
Well,
or 6th.
after the first meeting.
So you're saying this isn't necessary?
Well, I'm just saying that the ordinance or the statute specifically says that each of us sitting here has a responsibility to respond to the conditions that we have currently. We are at a threshold where we have to mitigate. We all have to, and we are. We have vaccination clinics. We have gone that direction. So we are responding. But we all, and we have to at this point in the level. But what if we didn't respond? We have a duty to respond. And I'm not, I don't like the scare tactics out there, but what if, as a board, we fail to do our statutory duty?
Well, the Commissioner of Health
there's
would
a-
come in and.
The
rule.
President of the United States who has federal authority over where we live. There's this governor of Minnesota who has state authority over where we live. We have each and every city within the county that can impose their own measures as they want to. I ran three campaigns that said specifically, I want to stop the expansion of government. This does nothing but empower government and take power away from the citizens. So I don't care how many different ways you explain it, I'm not going to support it.
Well, that's fine, and that's why we're having this discussion. And I don't know if it will go beyond tonight, but what I'm saying is, I told several people yesterday that emailed me, is that even if this would go through tonight and go through MCIT and they would review it, we're going to have a new board chair before this would ever get.
We could have.
Before.
And you're saying that Marcia's not going to be chair.
I didn't say that. I said we could have.
And you said we're going to have.
Well, she could be a new board chair in 2022. But there would still be a new chair.
Anybody can, but as I also.
So,
as I-
if this was my agenda to accomplish this, I could certainly do it. And I'm not saying it is my agenda to accomplish this. I think we should have this discussion because we do have a responsibility under that statute that we have to do something, Steve. And you can say, advocate that the federal can do this and that, but we have to. That's part of what our responsibility is. And we are doing something. As I told people, and there's nothing that says we have to mandate anything.
We also have to uphold the Constitution, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's clear liberties that go with being a citizen. And in my view, the more important and higher duty is to those rights and liberties than it is to taking control and administering draconian power over the people. So we just sit in different chairs.
No, but that power exists.
And anything I can do to stand in the way of it, I will.
But it exists right now.
And I'm not trying to expand it.
I don't think it's expanded. You always said you don't think the chair should have any more or any less power than anybody else. So, anybody else have any comments?
Well, to answer
Madam
one of your
Chair.
questions, Commissioner Olson, because since day one, I've been involved with the commissioner at the state level of health. And I've sat on the SHAC, the Statewide Community Health Services Advisory Committee, and worked with a number of different commissioners. But it does say here again, by statute, 145A, the Commissioner of Health may enter into delegation agreements with the County Health Board to perform certain license inspection, reporting, and enforcement duties. So if the Commissioner of Health for the state of Minnesota felt we weren't, as Winona County Health Board, weren't doing something, they would be here telling us. They've directed us, we have to have a certain person in charge. There are very definitive rules that we.
If they want to take over.
Yeah, that they would be here if we weren't doing something right. I've got Commissioner Kavesi next.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it looks to me like the ordinance is clearly based, it's based on the board acting as the county health board. So first, that's the first change. We're not acting as the 5 county commissioners, we're acting as the county health board. And we have explicit responsibilities and options when we act as the county health board. And we don't have those options sometimes in terms of acting as the county board. On page 155, we've got definitions here. It says the 10 essential public health services are, and this is directly from the language of Minnesota Statutes 145A. In there, you've got many things that we are doing. We are doing these things. We're informing and we're educating and empowering people about health issues. We're mobilizing community partnerships to solve health problems. The next one in line says develop policies and plans that support individual and community health efforts. So right now we have that option, as the chair would bring it up. This ordinance develops or proposes another option to do that particular thing, to develop policies and plans that support individual and community health efforts. It gives us another option. The chair could still raise their own issues, and then the board would vote on it, the Community Health Board. But under this ordinance, the proposal would allow the Community Health Board, the 5 of us, to propose policies and plans and to discuss them and to vote on them. There's also a public hearing involved. So it seems to me that this ordinance takes the language of the statute and brings it down to our local level, to the 5 of us when we sit as the Community Health Board. So that's all in these pages here. So I just wanted to point that out.
There is, just for your interpretation versus my interpretation, Commissioner Kavesi, back in '07, we had a flood, a major flood. And so I do remember I was county board chair at the time. I came in and signed a declaration so that we could get FEMA and we could get all the joint powers and everything. And the county board came in and approved it. That's the only time that I have declared it a state of emergency.
I declared emergency when I was chair also.
For the other flood.
Yes.
Right. So we've dealt with floods. So if you're dealing with an emergency and you take that power away from one person, so say you have 5 board members, you have to have at least 3 able to come in to meet. Because I don't think you could do this by a Zoom. I think you would have to physically meet and pass this. I may be wrong. So if we have a terrible, well, we have a plague. People, you're dying within 20 minutes. Or we have a massive tornado where people are, homes are destroyed and roads are destroyed and you can't get there. So you could run the risk of not having 3 county commissioners available to come in and pass something like this, or the chances of getting 1, or I don't know if the vice chair could.
But you
could
still
do this.
can as county chair.
Doesn't take any power away.
County chair. This doesn't take that away from the
doesn't take-
county
right.
chair. This allows a second option for the community
That's-
health
Well, that's
board.
not how I read it.
And it's
I read
not
it that
the
it
community
takes it
health.
away from the chair.
No, the
No.
community health board would not be declaring the emergency. The community health board would be doing this list of items on page 155 and 156, monitoring the health status,
Already
diagnose.
do. Regardless of an emergency, we do those things.
Including develop policies and plans that support individual and community health efforts. Okay, enforce
So I'm
laws. and
sorry, I
regulations.
misunderstood. You're saying that the board chair statute still applies?
Yes.
Yeah, under chapter 12.
Yes.
Okay, and then if that doesn't happen, you're saying the board can bring it?
The-
This gives
as
another
the
option,
Community health board.
the community health.
And see, we're
board.
unique. Not every county, the community health board is the 5 county commissioners.
Correct, that's right.
That might be our downfall here. That we don't have any health people. None of us are physicians or have experience in health. I know how to open a bottle of aspirin and take 2 or 3, that's my health.
But that's why you
experience.
rely on the public health.
Well, I
staff
know,
and
but that is a
emergency
stumbling block.
management.
So I said,
Right.
like I said, not every county uses the county board as the health board. And that's something we may want to look at. Commissioner Kavesi.
Yeah, and every time when we sit as a community health board, we have our health and human services director here. We have our emergency management coordinator here. And we have our staff. We ask staff questions. We don't make these things up. We're relying on our.
But they're not medically trained physicians. They're very good at their
And well,
jobs.
they're relying on the people that provide information, the CDC, the FDA, I don't know, the Department of Health. Those are
some of the
options.
sources. Yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacob.
Yeah, so initially, Attorney Sonneman, I asked you to explain the mask mandate and how that parlayed into this ordinance. And I really wasn't asking for myself. I was asking because I feel like our community has really paid close attention to this and they didn't get lost in that this is a mask mandate, they quickly picked up on, okay, Steve, what about this parlaying into a vaccine mandate or a stay-at-home order, quarantine, all these things. So they picked up on that very quickly. I've received a lot more input from the community on this particular issue than, I don't know if I've ever had any more input from the community than what I've had on this issue. The community sees it very clearly as the government expanding its powers over them, and that's why I feel I'm seeing resistance to it, is they want their liberty. They don't want the government being able to have these powers to impose, even more rapidly impose these kind of restrictions on them. So I'm going to take what I'm hearing from the community, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop this power grab by our local government.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, thanks. I really wanted to talk, there's been some great points raised, but I kind of want to talk about where Winona County wants to spend its effort right now. Our governor said earlier in the week when he was asked about extending or imposing a new peacetime emergency that for the folks who have expressed that they're unwilling to get vaccinated, those folks are the ones who are really in the biggest danger right now. That's the majority of the that's the majority of the hospitalizations. And those are the same folks who would likely be unwilling to follow a mask mandate. And in fact, that's been said by some of the folks that spoke here tonight. And so I really feel like Winona County would be better served by us, by our staff, putting our energy into getting the folks who will get vaccinated, vaccinated. And I say that because while masks are effective, the vaccines are much more protection. And so I question at this point if it's worth having this fight right now, since we're not going to use this ordinance right away. Now, I understand Commissioner Olson's opinion because he's saying to me, you know, we don't know what the year is going to bring. Maybe there'll be a new variant, and that is certainly true. But I really think that there's so much misinformation out there right now. I received a phone call from an Illinois area code earlier today suggesting that this proposed change was really the door to all kinds of sort of crazy things that we're really not considering. And so I'm not sure that this is the right time. I'd kind of be interested to know what Commissioners Kavesi and Olson think about it.
Commissioner Olson.
Well, as I said, and I think it was in the newspaper, that I am not going to support any mask mandate at this time. I think that time has come and gone. I did have an interesting conversation in the Menards parking lot the other day. A gentleman that I don't believe has any children, but he grabbed my attention and wanted to talk about masks and vaccinations. And he was appalled that we were offering vaccinations to children. And I said, you know, that's not what my role is. But he said his study found that only 4 children in Minnesota have died from COVID. And why would we want to vaccinate the rest of them? And I just asked him, I said, how many children have to die before we take action? You know, what would be your comfort level? And knowing that he didn't have any kids, I guess he had a pretty big comfort level. So I can certainly move beyond this ordinance proposal. That power exists. I don't know where Steve thinks we're gonna, or Commissioner Jacob thinks this is a power grab when the power already is in the hands of one person versus the hands of all of us, at least for 72 hours. So I can certainly move beyond this. I wasn't going to support a mandate on masks. And this wasn't an attempt to get there, but I think that as our role, as laid out in the statute, all 5 of us do have a responsibility as a community health board. We do have to respond. And even the Supreme Court had ruled in 1905 that our individual liberties mean nothing when they infringe on the liberties of all. So that's been done and decided. So I can move beyond this and go to the next agenda item.
I'll make a motion to abandon the potential public health ordinance draft.
And I'll second that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Meyer.
I would prefer to table the motion, so I am going to vote nay on this particular proposition. I do, for the folks who are here and listening in, I do want you to know that I am concerned for your welfare. And I hear a lot of anger. In fact, I've been pretty shocked and really saddened at the level of rudeness. There have been a little over 100 people who have emailed me, and many of them time and time again. And I just want you to know that your anger is not going to protect you. And it isn't going to protect your vulnerable loved ones. I'm calling in today because I was exposed to COVID today. So as we enter the holidays, I am asking you in general to take care of yourselves, to take care of your families, to take care of your loved ones. And the other thing I want to say about the shortage of ICU beds, which yes, I do talk about it a lot. I have a niece who needed to go to the hospital. She lives near Madison. And this summer she had to stay at home, and my brother-in-law had to travel to Wisconsin to stay with her at home, and she couldn't get into the hospital because the ICU beds were full, and they told her they were full with COVID patients. So I am concerned about you. I'm concerned about the community as a whole. And so you can be mad at me. You can feel like you have a victory, but COVID doesn't care.
All right. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to abandon the draft of a public health emergency ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Commissioner Meyer, I didn't hear your vote.
Sorry, I was muted. Nay. And also I couldn't hear. How did that nay go? I could not hear Commissioner Kavesi's vote.
There were two ayes. Oh, wait,
2 ayes.
2 ayes. Wait, no. It was
a 2-3 vote.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
So it did not pass.
It did not pass. 3-2.
Madam Chair, I would move that we table this motion, or we table this resolution. I'm not sure of the time frame, but I was thinking a year.
Table doesn't have
Table the agenda item. It's
until we take it off the table. It doesn't have a definitive time.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion to table the proposed potential public health emergency ordinance.
I would second that.
Pardon me?
I would
I'm
second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi. Any further discussion? Commissioner Jacob.
Well, I think that so the community understands, that means that it will come back to the board. It's just they understand the passion tonight, I think. So they're saying we're not going to deal with it tonight. But I'd say keep your antenna up on it.
And I would say also, right, a table means that it can come back at some future point in time.
And it should come back.
And county boards will change. Personalities and philosophies will change, so it's difficult to say. I do say, though, that we do have one of the best public health departments in the state of Minnesota. We're highly recognized. We are active with the State Commissioner of Health and all the state people. Karen Sanis and Melanie Teague are recognized, and Ben Kleiner across not only southeast Minnesota, but throughout the state. And we are using the resources that we're given. We will continue to do clinics. We will continue to do education. We will continue to do, we're giving $50 Visa cards if you get, that's, to me, that's bribery, the definition of bribery, but I guess it's legal when a government does it. So we will continue those things and give everybody in our viewing area and our jurisdiction the opportunities to obtain more information, better information. These people, you can contact them. You should be contacting your local providers and find out what works best for you as an individual. And I think that's the message I heard, is people want to be able to make their decision. They don't want government telling them how and when to do it. And I don't disagree with them. So stay tuned, I guess. So the motion is to table. Any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, that passes. So it is tabled. All right, I will keep my highlighted notes for future reference. I did a lot of homework on this, but that's okay. All right, moving on. 9.7. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 9.7.
Yeah, 9.7. I'm sorry. Yes, that is. I saw ordinance, so I quickly flipped past it. Okay, approve or deny future agenda item to discuss nuisance ordinance.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I am looking tonight for possibly 3 votes for us to move this to a bigger discussion at the board. Ms. Qualley is here. I'm wondering if I could call upon her to explain to us what a nuisance ordinance is.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Madam Chair and County Board, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, and if I'm too loud, just tell me to pipe down a little bit. So this came out of a discussion when probably 3.5, 4 years ago, when I discovered that many of the complaints about properties that we could call junk collectors had been issued letters from the department based on neighbor complaints over a period of 4 to 12 years with no discernible results. And whether you call it a nuisance ordinance or maybe what I might call an outdoor storage ordinance, right now, what we have in the zoning ordinance is 9.1.12, which states that no more than 3 inoperable vehicles shall be allowed on a property for a period not to exceed 3 months. Inoperable meaning no, not just that it has a wheel that fell off, but no tabs that are up to date and so on. But when I get calls from property owners and taxpayers that state that there's 12 riding lawnmowers that have been dead in the shrubs that they have to look at for months on end, or in fact years on end, or there's 2 dead skid steers that they have to look at. These are not vehicles. And so in order to prepare the appropriate responses stating zoning ordinance violations or solid waste ordinance violations, which covers the whole county, there are huge gaps. You know, if somebody wants to keep, I don't care if it's 40, lawnmowers for parts or whatever, but if they have them inside a storage building, if they have an authorized, and it doesn't cover too much of their property in terms of impervious surface, that kind of thing, and they could put them inside where they can enjoy them personally for whatever reason, and the neighbors don't have to look at them. I get more complaints about this than anything else. And I think I've told this board that a few times. And so, but it continues to the present time. And so my request would be to look at something along those lines of outdoor storage or nuisance ordinance. Thank you.
Commissioner Olson.
Could you just tell me the procedural, would this go before the planning commission then, or a draft before the planning commission for discussion at their level and then come back to us? Is that how it works?
Correct. If you wanted this added to the list that I was given when I started, we've hit a few of them. Although the solar ordinance probably could stand some more tweaking, and I owe you guys a second, a proper solar working session. I've been requested by the Planning Commission to add to the schedule something about prime soils. But there was also the fact that we have the original list that I received that includes a redo of the sign ordinance, because the sign ordinance is actually got language that has been overturned. So, I might want to come back with a little bit of a reprioritization request for the board to let me know what's their hottest topics, because I can't do them all at once. But yes, to answer you more directly, Commissioner Olson, if you guys want me to work on that, we will be happy to do so. Stephanie Nuttall from Ms. Sonneman's office has certainly thoughts on it, because I've sent things and she's like, well, there's no ordinance for this. So then we would take it through the Planning Commission and it would come back to the county board if you so desire to work on it.
I mean, I'll support, this was your request. I'll support you bringing it forward and letting the planning commission work on it. See what they want to do. You need 3 people? I'm one.
Yeah, I would support that also. I know this has been a continuing discussion. I've had calls from citizens. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what the ordinance covers, what it doesn't cover, why, those kinds of things. So I would support a discussion on this kind of an ordinance.
I'll move that you approve whatever the process is, item number 9.7.
We have a motion to move it forward to the Planning Commission. Commissioner Olson, do I have a second?
Madam Chair, I think that our process requires that it come back. All we're doing tonight is allowing to have a conversation
on the board.
in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that motion. Do we have a second to move it to the?
I would second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to move this forward to up for their county board discussion.
Full county board discussion.
Yeah, Commissioner Jacob? Okay, yeah. And you're right, I've had some, over the years, some complaints about this, but it's a slippery slope too. One man's trash is one man's treasure. And be careful how close you look and such. So, but that would have to be up for planning and okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Qualley.
All right, thank you very much, and I'll try to gather some more information for when this comes back to the board to give you a little more concrete examples of some sample language that could be appropriate for outdoor storage slash nuisance. Thank you.
Ms. Qualley, before you leave,
Yes.
Hearing your voice, you've raised a question in my mind. I've been reading in the newspaper that the city of Winona is going to be redoing their comprehensive land use plan?
Yeah, the comp plan.
Plan? What, has anybody reached out to you as a county planning director for any input? Do we get any input? Do we have a voice at the table for that?
In their own jurisdiction.
They are, but I mean, have you been asked anything about that, Ms.
To answer your question, Madam Chair, not specifically about the comprehensive plan. John Howard from the city and I shared a Green Corps member who was working on a variety of projects, and I did a little proofreading just to speed up the process, which was lagging a bit on their sustainability plan, not with the goal of providing any overarching input into it, but I was just asked, and because we were sharing the Green Corps member, I did that. And if that is a component, which I'm not aware of either, then indirectly, but no one has reached out to me for any input. I don't know that they will or that they need to, but no.
Sure. Okay, well, just curious, you know.
Hmm.
We kind of encompass them, but yeah, they're their own entity.
I believe Engage Winona is having community discussions.
I think I read
on
something
this.
about.
Yeah, so
I
they're
didn't-
reaching out directly
didn't
to
see
the
any
citizens. They're
specifics.
reaching out directly to the citizens.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Only I had an announcement, just an update on the sand hauling out of Homer. Of course, County Road 15, I had a lot of angry citizens because the way we left it with them, they thought we had that under control and that some of our recommendations and everything were going to be applying to the hauling. Well, and then afterwards we found out that we had no control over Corps of Army Engineers, which is a federal agency. So they have been hauling, aggressively hauling, with minimal, I would have to say in my opinion, minimal safety. They put some signs, there is one or two signs coming from the south or east coming up before you get to this, it says trucks hauling. I did have a conversation with them today. I said, coming from Winona down, there is absolutely not a sign. You would have no idea if there's big sand trucks coming across that intersection. So they agreed to put some more signage there to advise people that there is some hauling going on in the area. There is a truck that sits by the railroad crossing. So if the train is coming, they're supposed to flag it. But they did assure us they were going to be addressing safety with the railroad crossing, and that hasn't been done. And of course, the Corps is just saying we can do what we want to do. They did say they were trying to limit the hauling between 8 and 5, but they've got maybe about half the pile down. After I did learn that they were going to start hauling, which none of us really knew, not even staff. Luckily, the planning staff had emails and addresses for all the constituents, so they did send a letter. They probably got it a day or two after the hauling started, but to say the least, the local citizens were quite disappointed.
There's trucks out there at 6:30 in the morning when I go by.
Yeah, I know. So they're not 8 to
So
5.
the signs are on 61.
61.
Just
Just
I was extremely worried about, where they pull out, they have a very short distance to cross
yes.
3 or 4 lanes of traffic.
I've had
to
to
get
slam
in.
the brakes on several times.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that median would accommodate their truck, even if they stop in the to go. So-
That bothered me a lot. That entrance or exit
right in
or
front, yeah.
whatever.
So they
Yeah.
agreed to put a few more signs up, but it is not a good
I know.
situation. And luckily the weather's been dry, it doesn't, that part of the road
Yeah.
can get very icy and everything. So if you have anybody that expresses concern to you, don't hesitate to give me a call, and I would give Paul at the Corps of Army Engineers a call. He was very responsive and receptive to things. Other than that, it's Turkey Day. Everybody, don't eat any rare turkey. Make sure your turkey's properly cooked if you got one, and have a good time celebrating with family or friends, and be safe and travel safely, and we'll see
Motion to
y'all.
adjourn.
Yes, see you all next
Second.
time. Motion by Olson, second by Jacob to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.